Peter, pleasure to meet you. Let's go. I think this is our third episode from Romania, but man, we're in a different sector every single time.
Wow.
The first time we were talking to an investor, second time an accelerator program manager at Rubik Hub, and now some cybersecurity, which I think you're our first cybersecurity person that I've been looking forward to. Kind of hearing, what's on the forefront, but I'll stop talking. Please, if you would introduce yourself, where you're at, a little bit of your background, your origin story, and then we'll get into D3 in just a little bit.
All right, sure thing. So first up, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. A little bit about me. I'm an IT guy, right? Started off doing programming on an old ZX Spectrum back when I was 6. So that was very early 90s, and kind of it all took off from there. I figured I like computers and anything having to do with computers, so that's been most of my life anyway. I've always been that go-to person in the family where like any relative, any friend would kind of, hey, you're good with computers, can you help me do this or that?
You're the guy who turns the Wi-Fi on and off?
Exactly. So at some point I just figured I might do this as a business, right? As kind of I could charge people for this, right? So early on, I started working in IT as sort of a programmer at 16, and then did that for a number of years. Started my first company back in 2007, and that was when I figured that I can't handle some of the customers and requests that I was getting on my own. It was mostly doing IT stuff for like kind of local companies in the city I was in.
Kind of like an IT consultant almost?
Yeah, but I was the Wi-Fi guy. I was the like, hey, the printer's not working, would go to the office of the customer just to figure out that somebody tripped over the wire, and like I had to just plug in the network cable in the printer, stuff like that. So I would do those things early days, and a lot of requests started to come, and I figured I can't do this just on my own. I need some help. That's when the idea of like I need to start a company to do this. And then we slowly switched to doing managed services, mostly for hosting companies in the US. So did that for a number of years, did 24/7 support. So we handled everything from like level 1 to level 3 support, handling incoming calls from customers, but also handling the backend config of the servers in the data centers. That's when I started traveling to the US. First time seeing and touching the servers we were managing remotely, kind of. And then over the years, I slowly turned to cloud and enterprise customers and cybersecurity. So for, I think, a little over 15 years now, it's mostly been infrastructure, cloud, security stuff, right? I'm a Microsoft MVP, have been one for 15 years. So I've mostly dealt with their technology stack. I do a lot of talking at conferences, and that's been kind of my go-to thing when it comes to the community. Started and ran a whole bunch of tech communities over the years. I ran a tech event here in Transylvania and Cluj for 10 years, like bringing in 700-800 people every year, speakers from all over the world. So that's kind of what I've been doing in the past
that's the origin
too many years to count. And the most recent endeavor is a cybersecurity managed services company called D3 Cyber that I co-founded a couple of years ago.
So before we get into D3, when did you make that switch over from like general IT into specifically cybersecurity?
That was a gradual thing, but I think the focus started to happen 10, 15 years ago. And over the years, I found myself doing a lot more trainings around cybersecurity awareness. So I started doing some of these things kind of before they were cool, right? Before everyone else was doing it, I started off talking about some of these things that now everyone's kind of aware of and talks about. And it became like from a gradual thing. Most of the conference talks that I did were around cybersecurity, and I became kind of a regular speaker at events around cybersecurity. But yeah, I would say 10, 15 years ago is when this thing kind of took on. It was still part of what I was doing anyway, because when you would kind of put some network settings together, security was top of mind. When you would configure a server on the internet, you'd want that server to not be hacked within the hour or the next day, right? So I was kind of doing that anyway, but I just started to focus more on it.
Nice. Perfect. All right. Tell me all about D3. What type of clients do you service? Where did the idea for the, I mean, you kind of told me the idea of like you were already doing it, but it seems like it just became more and more relevant as you kept working with these clients. So give me the backstory of D3.
All right. So right before the pandemic, for about 5 years, I got involved as a managing partner in another managed services and outsourcing company here in Romania. We got to do really amazing stuff, work with some interesting and fun, huge customers from all over the world, from Europe, and got to be involved in a lot of interesting projects. I left that company right before the pandemic hit, or around the time the pandemic hit, and I was kind of left thinking, so what's next, right? I've been doing managed services for a long time, and I didn't want to do that again, right? To start over doing what I knew already. So for a couple of years, I just kind of mulled on what's next on the idea. I also have and had another, I guess, hobby turned business, if you will, which is a space for board game fans here in the city, which is a co-work space and an event venue and a place where people can come in and play like tabletop games and TCGs and stuff like that. Obviously, not the greatest time to have that when the pandemic hit. Yeah. So my focus went into that a little bit and trying to figure out how can we still make it work with all the restrictions of not being allowed to host people and whatnot. So that took a bit of my time there. And during that time, I kind of said no to a lot of offers coming on LinkedIn and from all over to kind of switch to the corporate world, to go get hired somewhere. Some of them were actually even C-level positions, but I didn't want to, like, after having 15 years of entrepreneurship, going to that kind of like office work, even if it was all remote at the time, right? It was still like, yeah, I can still work from home and do my own time, my own hours, kind of. I still felt I was losing some of that freedom of entrepreneurship. Like
I work with
arguably the freedom, because then working nights and weekends, holidays are a blur, right? So there's really a fuzzy.
Students I work with at during the program I run, it's so funny to watch them like applying for corporate positions and jobs as they're graduating, and like I don't want to say it to like insult them in any way, but I'm like, you got bit by the bug of entrepreneurship. Like, you're only going to work at that corporate thing for a little while. Like, it's only going to be a matter of time before you say, wait, I can do my own.
That could be a good thing, because especially early on, you can get a hang of like internal SOPs and how a business is run, as long as you maybe ask questions and ask more questions than what someone in your position might be asking. You can get a lot of insight at someone else's expense, right? You get paid to ask those questions and to learn, and then start applying that in whatever business or idea you want to kind of take on your own.
And then work on your nights and weekends, so.
Exactly. Okay, so going back, like I figured I want a new kind of challenge, and cybersecurity was always kind of on my mind. I was still doing consulting and training during this kind of time off from running an IT business per se, but most of those trainings were around cybersecurity. And then we had kind of a serendipitous moment of a friend asking me, hey, so we're thinking of maybe starting this cyber thing, and I know you're into that. Could we maybe come to you if we ever need an extra pair of hands, like some extra help with a project or something? And I was like, hey, that actually sounds interesting. As compared to all the offers and opportunities I've been getting, this actually sounds interesting. Tell me more. I would like to be more involved. So this ended up being kind of a three-way discussion with two other people that I already knew from the industry and had known for years, had interacted with both of them in like conferences and even in a professional manner. One of them used to be a customer of mine with the company he was working for. And we figured, well, this is something that we want to do, and it's certainly a hot area, cybersecurity in general. So, and there's definitely demand on the market and potential for growth. So, okay, let's do this. So 2 years ago, after I think it was about half a year of discussions and planning and having gone through starting a business, and I wasn't the only one of the founders that had done this before. We had both the knowledge, the background, the network to help kickstart this, and so we did, and it's been going for a little over 2 years now, and looking forward to many more.
Nice. So for most people who are watching this, but they hear cybersecurity, and I think their first thought might be like an email scam of like, or click on this link, and it takes you to the wrong thing. Besides that, and that's just very level one. What else are you like helping people protect themselves from?
So we're trying to do this no bullshit, down to earth approach to cybersecurity, because you get to hear a lot of things like we can do this and that. What we mainly focus on is what's essentially called virtual CISO services, so Chief Information Security Officer, but kind of as an external service, right? Okay. So having that key role or person in your company helping you with the cybersecurity side, if you already have them, we're just gonna help them do better. If you don't have that role position inside of your company, we're gonna help fill some of the requirements of that position, right? And this has mainly a lot to do with helping getting your company more secure, helping getting your security posture to the way it should be, addressing any compliance requirements. If you've got something like ISO 27001 that you need to achieve in terms of compliance, we can help you get there. We can help you with internal processes and procedures, with doing security assessments, figuring out whether your policies of like how you do backups or how you hire and give people access to stuff, and what do you do when they leave the company? How do you ensure that they don't keep that kind of access from wherever after they leave the company? So we look at things like these. We do pen tests on your applications and infrastructure. We look at how well you're managing your cloud infrastructure. We do trainings for your staff. So anything that's needed for your company to be able to do whatever it does better without having to worry about the cybersecurity side. So we're trying to give you that peace of mind. If you run a bagel company, you focus on those bagels, man, right? And we're gonna help you with the cybersecurity side. Not all business are cybersecurity focused, but they all nowadays, with what's happening out there, and with the need to be always online, always present, always like, you need email, right? You need a way to use computers. There's very few companies out there that don't really use IT and computers day to day, right, in their day-to-day operations.
Which to that, I would say, at those places where you least expect it, it might be the easiest to get fooled.
Exactly.
I like to work out of a lot of coffee shops quite often, and I've learned, it's best to work off your own hotspot and to never log into like bank accounts or any of that information from somebody else's Wi-Fi.
Like public Wi-Fi,
yeah, from public Wi-Fi, because if you know what you're doing, you can probably hack in and see my bank account info.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly. So, and it's like, as long as you don't know about these things, you're a lot more exposed. If you are able to just see that 5-minute YouTube video that shows you how easy it is for someone on the same Wi-Fi as you at the coffee shop or hotel or airport or wherever to hack into your device, or just get a hold of your login credentials into whatever, if you see how easy that is, you're gonna stop connecting to those free Wi-Fis altogether, right? But the awareness is still not quite there. So a lot of people just, it's free, so it must be good, right? Nah, whatever ends up free for you is valuable for someone else, right?
I heard somebody once say, if a service is free, then you're the product.
Then if you're not paying for the product, then you're the product.
Yeah,
right.
Very much so. Well,
and that's valid for like social media.
Do you have any? We were talking about this earlier before we started the interview. Of I had it's called family get together recently, and had to have the conversation of, if you get a call from me, if somebody sees that I'm in Mexico or Japan or somewhere, and you get a call that says my voice, because I've got plenty of YouTube videos, people can take my voice and do what they want with it. I'm not endorsing that. Please do not take my voice. But, people could, and then call, like my dad or my grandpa or my brother or somebody, and say, hey, I'm in, I got arrested. I need to post bail. Can you wire me $5,000? Like, we had to have the talk about, here's the secret, like, passcode we're going to use as a family. Don't write it down. Don't put it in your phone anywhere. Don't put it on your laptop, any notes app, anywhere. Just remember it in your head. If something like that calls you, here's what you can ask me to verify that it's really me and not just an AI stealing my voice. So besides, a simple passcode that isn't written down anywhere, or kind of helping to better inform yourself, do you have any kind of generic tips that people can use to better protect themselves from simple things?
Yeah, obviously. And what you're saying is actually becoming more common than people think. Because it's easier and easier to do deepfakes and spoof someone's voice or even someone's face and during a video call, which has already happened and led to companies being compromised and millions of dollars being wired into the wrong accounts. But yeah, even if you're talking about smaller scale scams with families and whatnot, it only takes a few seconds of your voice to clone that voice. So having that approach that you said with a keyword, a secret passcode, that if I say this word, it's me, it's the real me. If not, don't trust, don't believe whoever you think you're hearing over the phone. Besides that, it's just about the basics of what you hear all over. Use a password manager. Don't reuse your password everywhere. Use multi-factor authentication everywhere you can use it, because even that's becoming easier to circumvent. If you don't have that, it was very recently that a huge list of 16 billion logins from past data breaches was made public. That means if you ever use that password on one website and that website got hacked, if you're using it on 3 other websites, it's easy for the bad guys to just hack into those websites because they now know your password because you're using the same password, or just small variations of it. If the website asks you to kind of change your password every 90 days or something, and you just add a 01, 02, 03 at the end, you're not doing much, because the bad guys have tools that will just account for that, and they'll try through some of those variations. So just basic password hygiene, if you will.
Password hygiene.
It's, there was a study made a few years ago, and it basically said, try to not treat your passwords treat your passwords as you do your underwear. Don't leave them lying around. Don't share them, right? It's that kind of a basic thing.
Every so often, change them out.
Yeah, and change them regularly. And it's such an obvious thing that people do with their underwear, but they don't do with their passwords, and they should. And having a password manager, and there's a bunch of free open source stuff that you could use. You don't have to really pay for the commercial stuff out there, but it will really save you time and not have you memorize tens or hundreds of different passwords. It will create those passwords for you. It will remember those passwords for you. It will even work. Some of these work with the newer longer passwords that are passphrases or passkeys or other alternative login solutions. You won't ever remember a 40-character password if a website allows you to, but that password manager will allow you to create that 40-character password, if you will. That's really hard to remember and almost impossible to break.
I saw he's like a magician or an illusionist or something, and he was having a conversation with people, but within the conversation he was able to get their name of their first pet, their mother's maiden name, a few different questions like this. And he was like, well, I'm not going to go directly after your password, but I can get your ID, your name, your email, and I can use these key things, your mother's maiden name, pet's name, things like that, city you grew up in, and I can use those to create a new password and get it sent to me, and then I can log into your thing. So it made me laugh of honestly, I think I would have fallen for that if I didn't know any better. But it's just
exactly.
So simple.
So it's people started to rely so much on AI, even though not everyone's kind of using it properly. And everyone now thinks they're smarter than they are because they can ask ChatGPT, right? But how about asking ChatGPT, what can I do to improve my security, right? And it will likely give you some good advice in terms of using complex passwords, not reusing your passwords, using a multi-factor authentication everywhere. Always, it used to be trust but verify. You can trust emails coming from a person but just double check, hey, did you actually send me that email? And use a separate communication channel, call them or just message them on some messaging app of some sort. Hey, did you actually send this, or did your
there was that one guy at Google who he was just some guy in California who was sending invoices to Google, and their accounting department didn't even verify any of it. They just said,
no, it's legit. Okay, it's an invoice, we pay it.
$5 million from them, just sending invoices.
Yeah,
and
so
I think he actually got away with it.
So moving from that kind of trust but verify to more of a zero trust approach, it's a healthy dose of paranoia is sometimes good. Because if you're, what they say, if you're not paranoid, it doesn't mean they're not out to get you, right? Yeah. So it's easy to kind of be a bit more circumspect. Is this actually coming from that friend or family member or coworker? Is this the kind of information I should be giving out really because someone's asking me to? Is this something that could be used for some nefarious purpose, right? Is this AI generated, I don't know, an image or a video or something of me, of my voice, my whatever? So just a bit more be a bit more circumspect. Use critical thinking in whatever comes at you, and just common sense when it comes to cybersecurity hygiene, to kind of doing the basics. Everything that everyone recommends, it's not that hard, and it will prevent the bad stuff that will likely impact you more once that happens.
You're so right about that. It is better to be a little paranoid now, and especially with how good. I think there was the example of Will Smith eating spaghetti from 2 years ago, and looked terrible. You could kind of tell it was Will Smith. You could definitely tell it was spaghetti, and then a year later, you're like, okay, like I can definitely tell it's AI, but we're getting so close. And
now what's coming this year? Like, if right now there's still that small chance that if you take the video, you do it full screen on your PC, you might see that pixel. But if you look at it on a mobile phone, on like a reel or TikTok feed or whatever, it's gonna be almost impossible to tell. Hey, this is AI.
I told somebody else the other day. It was my first time getting tricked by AI. It was some YouTubers like Logan Paul and somebody else. They're doing like a podcast setup, and they're like, "Guys, look at this video!" And like within the video went another video, and they're like, "I bet you didn't know that was AI." And then they pull out from that video, and they're like, "I bet you didn't know the whole video was AI." And then you watch it again, and you're like, "Oh, like the people, the guests and Logan Paul, like they look great." Then you look at the details of like their bottle of like Prime, and you can see it's like kind of spelled wrong or like blended in with it.
Oh, okay, like,
oh, I got fooled.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
I think one of my fears right now, and maybe I'm paranoid, maybe I'm not paranoid enough, is I think we really are within like 6 months to a year from the first AI like false accusation of this person robbed me, and here's an AI video, or here's a video of it, but like it has to be verified somehow,
I mean, it's already becoming an issue, because you used to be able to think, well, I've got recordings, I've got video evidence of this, but now it's stuff that you can easily generate with AI. Like, take this and add, I don't know, like add this car coming in and hitting my car, right? Then you go and claim insurance because you've got a video to prove it, right? So it's so easy to do these things, and it used to be so hard, and that's why it was accepted to have video evidence entered into like a trial or something. No longer will you be able to do that unless that recording is, in a way, like you said, certified and validated that this has not been tampered with, this is not AI generated. I mean, there's lawyers coming into court with Chat GPT generated stuff. So
that's all one of those. He lost. He lost his case because
I mean,
he was using previous trials that didn't exist.
Exactly.
Cases that didn't exist.
Cases that didn't exist.
Wow. That, I think he lost his license for like 6 months.
Sounded good, right? Because you can't, if you, and that kind of goes back to my point of people maybe not using AI correctly. They just assume too much, or you're asking AI to do something for you, but there's no way for you with your knowledge to validate that what you have been given is correct and that you can use that. And that becomes a problem in itself, because then you rely on that information. You think you think you've got the answer, but that thing is wrong. That thing's just invented. That thing doesn't exist. It's a hallucination of the model. And it's
getting
we're
scary.
Living in interesting times.
Well, on that same note, I've seen some pretty crazy prompts of people like, I don't want to give any sort of like suggestions on how to prompt for malware, but I've seen some people using prompts in a way that tricks, GPT and Claude into creating like these bugs and worms to like get into other people's computers and steal their bank account info. What are some ways that you've seen, like AI is like the hot topic right now? What are some ways that you've seen AI used, like one for bad when it comes to cybersecurity, and two for good when it comes to cybersecurity? And do you think it's going to be a lot of like you and your AI versus like the bad guy and his AI?
I mean, it's already happening, and it's going to continue to be this kind of cat and mouse game of who's doing it first. Unfortunately, I think the bad guys have an edge on this because they start doing new things, and then any response is exactly that, just a response. There's not a lot of attempts at trying to predict or prevent stuff that hasn't happened yet, attacks that haven't occurred yet. So it's mostly responding to whatever's being thrown at the systems, at the, like, even the AI systems that help manage huge amounts of alerts and triage those and kind of block attacks automatically using AI and machine learning and the like. But it's still kind of a catch-up game on the defense side, because the bad guys now have tools that they didn't have at their disposal. They can scale things in a way that they couldn't before, right? Think 3, 4, 5 years ago, you used to get this Nigerian prince scam emails in poor English, like a lot of spelling mistakes and whatnot. Now it's perfect. It's perfect English, perfect, and not just perfect English, perfect whatever your language is, because they can now do any language. It was odd to get that email if you lived in Romania, right, but have it be in English and trust it. And yeah, of course, the Nigerian prince scam, that's known, but any scam whatsoever can now be scaled and personalized, and you get the hello Grant kind of email that feels personal to you with some info that the AI found on you on the internet, and that's included in the email. So it feels more personal. It's harder to detect those kinds of attacks. And starting from there, obviously these models have already been used for nefarious purposes, and it's easy to trick them into giving you stuff that they shouldn't give you, and ways and means and tools and scripts that you can use to then hack into stuff. There's been cases where at CTF competitions where people gather and try to hack into stuff, where AI models were able to hack into that thing faster than the participants in the contest, which is already scary, right?
Well, that's terrifying. Gonna keep me up tonight. But let's move to a happier note. Talk to me about what's happening kind of in your community, in your area. You've been working in the entrepreneurial, ecosystem for years now.
Yeah.
How have you seen things change in kind of Romania, or more specifically Transylvania, over the last maybe 10 years?
Well, I'd say Romania in general and Transylvania in particular is an area where IT has grown quite a lot. And while a lot of it has focused on outsourcing, I guess that's where a lot of the local IT companies have shined over the years. I am starting to see a lot more companies starting to shift towards product, right? To building their own product, building their own solutions, rather than just doing IT outsourcing, or in some cases even just body leasing. Like, you need 7 programmers, I've got 7 programmers for you at X amount of dollars an hour, right? So there's a shift from that to how can we bring more value? How can we deliver something that's more valuable to you as a customer, as a full spectrum service, or even as a product? And there's some really good products coming out in recent years that I've been tracking, and the startup ecosystem has been growing. A lot more ideas, a lot more conferences, a lot more contests, and the funding rounds for good pitches, and it's been a nice growth around the area, and that's all over Romania. But I think Transylvania, a bit more than the rest of the regions. Probably not Bucharest, right? Bucharest is a bit more, like, it's bigger, but after Bucharest, I think Cluj and Transylvania has done a really good job in the kind of startup world.
Nice. So we're seeing like every region kind of has its sector or sector 2 or 3 that it focuses on. Texas is good for like energy and medicine. A lot of Eastern Europe, like Germany, the UK, France, a lot of like climate tech and auto tech. Would you say that Romania is still heavily focused on more IT kind of products?
So it's still IT or solutions that kind of help any industries or kind of whatever works. I think people are just trying to figure out the next big thing everywhere, and there's not that old of a startup culture over here. And traditionally, I think the Balkans in general have this fear of failure that's instilled while you're a kid, and people are afraid to kind of start up a business or just think of, hey, maybe I start something that fails. That's not as easy as it doesn't come as easy as it comes to, say, someone in the US, where it's okay, like fail fast, learn from it, move on, kind of a thing. You rarely get this over here, so it takes a bit more courage to make that first step. So we're starting to get there, and that's why not having that kind of a background makes it harder to have, a specific area that you can focus on and you shine on. I've seen good ideas on different areas, whether it's healthcare or agriculture or whatever, you name it. There's been something that has potential, but I don't think there's kind of a specific thing here. I'm not that invested in the ecosystem to be able to kind of know everything about everything, but at least from my perspective, that's what I'm seeing.
Let me see. We're talking with Emmett King from Romania. We were talking with him a few weeks ago. And
he's one of my co-founders in D3 Cyber, by the way.
Oh, really? That's funny. I did
Yes.
not know that. We were talking with him, and it sounds, I think it's really cool where y'all are at, because y'all are so early. But he was telling me about one startup that became, I think, the first unicorn that came out of Romania, and it was like, cool.
UiPath, right?
I think so, yeah. It was a medical stuff, yeah. There's like steps you need to take to reach like Silicon Valley, which, my personal opinion, I don't think there's ever going to be another Silicon Valley, but I think there's going to be a lot of startup ecosystems that have their own like twist on it, and that's perfectly fine. But one of the big ones is like you need to have your first big win to prove you can start, build, launch,
exactly,
and like create a unicorn from here. Even if it moves somewhere else eventually, like you've proven that you can go from idea to unicorn in this region.
Exactly.
So it's doable, and there's no more excuses for anybody else of like, all right, cool. It's not going to be easy. You might fail a few times, but it's possible. So
it can be done,
I think it's so cool to see kind of where y'all are at. But kind of on that note, still talking about founders. Like I told you before, I work with a lot of first-time, early-stage founders. You've worked, with other startups, started your own things multiple times. What's one piece of advice that you would give to first-time or early-stage founders that they would, like a mistake they could avoid, or just a piece of advice you wish you had heard before?
Expect the unexpected, right? I think that's and if I were to recommend something, just look at Nassim Taleb's anti-fragile approach, like the Black Swan and his old Incerto series. The uncertainty of things is the only thing you can be certain of, right? And just assuming you know everything about everything, you'll be proven wrong by life, right? And just being able to live with that will prepare you better for what entrepreneurship is all about. Like the unexpected will keep on hitting you day after day, and as long as you're okay with the idea of this is what I'm getting myself into, and you start building a process, I guess, to deal with that and to address those things and to try to prevent some of the things. I could recommend books and like watch this thing, read that thing, and you'll learn from those things. You learn from experience more than you learn from books or just watching someone on a TED Talk. But just expecting the unexpected, I think, is a good way to describe entrepreneurship, I guess. I don't know.
I love it. No, that's a perfect way to encapsulate it. Well, awesome. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything you'd like to shout out or anything you can put out there in the crowd? Any ask for the audience?
I don't know. Just try and be the best at what you know you can be. If cybersecurity is your thing, it's certainly something that's getting a lot of traction in recent years, and even with the rise of AI and things like vibe coding, that just gives us more work, right? If it makes it so easy because there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of things that you need to protect against, and cybersecurity is one of the solutions to that. What I could say in terms of the local ecosystem, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of good conferences in the region that people can check out, local and regional. I've been involved in a conference called CyberC Festival. That's going to be in the summer, Seaside here. Another very good one, and we even ran a local version of it last year here in Cluj in Transylvania. It's called Def Camp, and it's by far the biggest in the region in Central and Eastern Europe. It's been going on for like DEF Camp, right? And that's happening in
DEATH. Like what?
No. F Camp. It's DEF Camp. Yep. So that goes on in Bucharest every November, has been going on for like 15 plus years, gathers over 2,000 participants every year, and it's a big thing in the region. So if you're into cybersecurity or just want to know more and you're around the area, try and lock in the dates for November and check that one out. I've been a speaker there for I think more than half of their editions. Anytime I've been around and I could make it and I've submitted, they've been gracious enough to accept me. So it's been great to kind of mingle with the local community and get to see new people and the enthusiasm of them getting into cybersecurity. So just go out there, try and find out what you like, experience as many things as you like, and see where that takes you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time today. And yeah, have a great night and stay safe.